Welcome to Warriors of the Dark Paws. My name is Stampire. With me is Beard,
Woohoo!
and today we're doing a list review show for our first local tournament in Pasadena, which we're calling the Pasadena Smackdown, which is very original.
So this is our first video. It's our first list review show. We're doing this very off the cuff. Let us know in the comments. Give us likes. I think that's what everybody says. Subscribe to us. And in the future, these will get better, hopefully.
maybe.
All right.
No promises on that one.
No promises. I'll be gutted if it doesn't.
So our first list is Infernal Dwarves from Biohazard. He's got pretty nasty list, a lot of flaming stuff as you would probably expect from Infernal Dwarves. He's got kind of the big beast unit of Taruk Anointeds with the Taruk Commissioner character in there. He's got a really big save with he has a 5 of Aegis against everything. He has a 4 of Aegis against flaming. He has a weapon that gives him the Volcanic Embrace, so it's really good against armor. And then his general is a mage, adept, alchemy, so he's not running a master. He's got 2 adepts, pyro, which is obviously a lot of synergy, and alchemy also has a lot of synergy with his list. So he's running a ton of stuff that gives you flaming attacks, as well as a ton of stuff that adds flammable to enemies. So it's really synergistic. It's got the rocket battery, which is really nasty for fighting monsters. He's got a chariot, and he's got the little vassal cavalry, and he's got the train. So
with another rocket battery.
Right. So this list seems pretty mobile for Infernal Dwarves. Lots of range damage, but it's not really slouches in close combat either. So it's pretty nasty.
Okay, so this one is Devin, who I've played in the past, who used to play Empire, clearly that was in the before times. Apparently he has switched to orcs. This list, he's starting off with an orc warlord, iron orc, which is always kind of harsh. He's got plate armor with ghostly guard, which gives him 2 up armor, and hand weapon Omen of the Apocalypse. I don't 100% remember what that does, but I know it does a lot of damage. I think it's one of the real expensive ones. He is doing the Pan of Protection pension. Since he's already got 2 up armor, I'm not sure what that's going to give him, but he does have it. He has a wizard, a goblin witch doctor with witchcraft and the rod of battle.
The Omen of the Apocalypse is the weapon that he gets to roll a D3 at the start of each round of combat, and he adds that D3 result to his attacks, strength, and AP.
Right.
So that's pretty dirty.
It's pretty dirty. So he's got a couple of power shrooms to get the casts off he needs to get. He's also got the rod of battle in there. Witchcraft has so much synergy with this kind of list, so I think he's going to get a lot of spells off, and they will work for him. He's also got an orc shaman who's an adept with shamanism, and that's probably going to get him a couple of buffs for his orcs, and maybe a debuff. He's got a goblin chief. His BSB is on a wolf, and just pretty basic. It has Crown of the Cavern King. So he's got a huge unit of goblins, cave goblins with spears and shields, nets, Madgits, standard bearer, musician champ. So he's definitely going to want to try and get those Madgits out against things with high armor. Fills out his core with a goblin bow unit, Cave Goblin Bow unit, and then 21 goblins with spear and shield. I'm guessing that one might be the bunker for one of those two is probably the bunker for the Wizard Master. 30 orcs, common orc, paired weapon, standard bearer, is a champion. Not a particularly scary unit, but 30 orcs. If he runs it 5 wide, he'll have a lot of ranks. It's a lot of orcs to kill. Goblin Raiders. These are probably going to be on. Say they're on wolves.
They're on wolves.
They're on wolves. So that's probably going to be where the BSB goes. Iron Orcs, 23 of them. Yikes. 522 points of just pure nasty. He'll have the Warlord in there. Wow, that's a nasty unit to try and take down. You're going to have plate armor. Weapons, choices of weapons. They just rock. Wolf Chariots, it's got 2 in one unit and then 1 single. We were guessing that's probably just to get the points in. A lot of very cheap impact hits. 3 bridge trolls. It's a pretty small unit of trolls. And there's only 3 of them. They do have to pretty much stay within the leadership bubble. Goblin Raiders with bow. This is chaff. He's got a git launcher, which is always scary for high armor, and then he's got a catapult, which is always scary for everything else, for anything, especially res 3. So it's got a lot of tools in this list. It'll be interesting to see how he plays it, how he keeps it all together under that that warlord's bubble, because he's going to want to be moving forward with that Iron Orc unit, and maybe some of these other units may not want to be moving forward, or at least nearby. So that one's going to be interesting, but it's a tough list. I think Devin did a good job on this.
As a note, this is my round 1 opponent, and he triples my model count. So it's going to be a very interesting deployment. Looking forward to see how this plays out.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how he's going to cram all this into Dawn Assault. Yeah, I don't know where all this stuff's going to go.
Some of it will ambush. Who knows?
Who knows?
Next, we've got Garrett's Saurian Ancients.
Okay, so this is Garrett, normally an ogre player, at least as I'm aware of, but he brought his Saurians this time.
I just want to say I love all the monsters. I think
oh yeah, me too. I think it's fantastic.
That's what I want to see. When I see lizards, I want to see Alpha Carnosaur, Taurus,
that's right,
Stygiasaur, all the big dinosaurs. That's what I think lizards should be all about. So.
Bring it. Bring that 900 point kind of squishy Alpha Carnosaur. So yeah, he's got himself a little heal with that Jade Staff. Spirit of the Stampede, I believe, gives him I don't remember, maybe Devastating Charge. Skink Captain on a Taurosaur with the Great Bow. It's got a Skink Priest who's an adept with Druidism.
Spirit of the Stampede gives D6 impact hits.
Oh, it's impact hits, right.
And then because the Alpha Carnosaur doesn't have impact hits, it's just D6. But if you put on something that already has impact hits, it adds another D6.
Yeah. I wish we had one of those. A big block of Saurian warriors. They've got a rending banner with spears. Wow, if you've got high armor, don't charge that. And then another 15 Saurian warriors. It's got some Raptor riders. Those will skirt around the edges. They're very fast. He's got the hunters with the blowpipe, so he'll be pumping out poison from turn 1. He's got the salamander for some flaming. Chameleons, that's more poison. And then he's got the Stygiasaur, which I just love, and it's Mystic Traveler, so it's a mage. This is a fun list. It's not as many models as Saurian Ancients often have, because he did bring the big dinosaurs. I just love him. I know Garrett's an excellent painter, so I'm looking forward to seeing what these things look like. It's going to be great on the table, and Garrett knows what he's doing, so should be a scary list for anybody to take.
I'm really
Take on.
interested to see how lists with no Quaddle Lord works, because most of the Saurian lists that I've seen have run that.
Right, because it can be the general and the BSB at the same time.
And it can like
Uh,
cast through the telepathic links to
right,
priest and stuff. So
and it sits at the back of the unit, so it's really hard to get to.
sure.
Yeah.
But I'm more excited about the 3 dinosaurs than would be
Yeah.
standard.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. I hope I play it so I can shoot it with cannons. Since my cannon never hits, ever, it'll probably be great.
Next, we've got Ludaman, Lucian's Sylvanos. He's got a Forest Prince, which is the like big character. He's got Willow's Ward, which decreases impact hits. He's got light armor with shielding bark, with an elven cloak, longbow, spear, and forest guardian. So he's more of a he's on foot. So he's definitely going to be hanging out in a unit. His magic items give him some extra armor and a little bit more damage. The Hunter's Honor basically turns the spear into a halberd, but with more AP because it's a spear, and makes his own unit harder to hit if he, because I mean it's Sylvan Elves, right? So he's almost always hitting first. So once he hits you, his unit gets distracted. So it makes his whatever unit he's in really hard to kill. So that's a really nasty little combat guy. And then he's also got a chieftain, who's the Eagle King. So he's not running. Oh, he is running. That is the BSB. And he's got the really nasty blades with another enchantment that gives him more attack value, plus on strength and lethal strike. So again, ways to circumvent armor is really common in this list. He's got a Shamanism Master, which is always pretty frightening. There's some really good spells in there. Not too heavy on magic though. Outside of that, he's pretty much got those spells because he's not running the Briar Maidens. So he doesn't have the Conclave, and he's also not got the kind of the Wizard King or any of the bound spells. So we'll see how that goes. He's got 20 Dryads, which are always a pretty nasty little core block for contesting objectives. He's got the Heath Riders. He's got 2 small blocks of archers, which even small blocks of archers for Sylvan Elves can still hit pretty accurately and hit pretty hard. 6 Thicket Beasts, which are really, really nasty, like monstrous infantry. You gotta take fire against this guy. He's if you don't have any flaming attacks, it's really hard to go through the Dryads, Thicket Beasts, and a Tree Father. Got 19 Forest Rangers, which are like the foresty sword masters almost, and the Wild Huntsmen, which are their heavier cavalry. And then he's got some chaff with the Forest Eagles, and then the Scouting Pathfinders, who also can hit really hard with their bows. More ways to circumvent armor.
And just let me note that this list didn't upload correctly. So tomorrow before the tournament, we're going to let Lucian change the list to the one he intended. And I think all it is 2 more Pathfinders, and I can't remember one other item, but it's not a huge change because it is only 113 points. But so he'll have 10 Pathfinders, not 8.
So this list I think is going to be really interesting. He's got like pretty solid avoidance, but also really nasty close combat units. So he can play this really adaptably. There's a lot of flexibility here. Whoever he goes against, he can come up with a pretty solid plan for. So,
and Lucian's been whining all week about how weak this is.
Well, he claims that he doesn't play this army, but I can't verify that, so we'll see.
And he also apparently painted some of this one himself, so we can go through the army and maybe see if we can spot which ones of those they are. Okay, we have another Orc and Goblin list here. This one is it's quite a bit different from the last one, actually. So we're starting off with a witch doctor, again, 2 power shrooms, cave goblin, wizard master with +1 health point. Pretty common setup. This is a better place, I think, to have the Pan of Protection pension if somebody does get this thing into combat, which I'm sure is not his goal. He has thaumaturgy, so he'll be dropping Wrath God left and right with using those power shrooms.
Yeah, power shrooms make it harder to dispel. So
yeah,
it's pretty dirty.
yeah,
It's like kind of a combination of the dark elf wizards that make it harder to spell and the high elf wizards that let you cast better, because he doesn't lose that +1 casting the way the dark elves do.
right. So we've got an Orc Warlord, which is his general. It's on a boar. He's got Death Cheater, so he'll have a 4-up Fortitude save and a hand weapon with Shady Shanking. Double check and see what that is. Sounds lethal strike, lightning reflexes. So that's fun. And fighting a duel, failed 2 rune rolls, Captain must be re-rolled. So yeah, that's kind of a tough duel to get into. And then he's got a Goblin King, classic move from books past to running on a Huntsman Spider. So this will be a cowboy running around. He's got that shield, a lance with supernatural dexterity, which is a combination I haven't seen very much, but so he'll be very likely trying to hit first on the charge with that lance. And he's got heavy armor, base ultimate infusion. So his armor isn't spectacular, although the Huntsman Spider, I believe, gives him 2. So it would be 4. Actually, might be. It's probably 2.
It's a 1-up rerollable.
It's a 1-up rerollable or a 2-up rerollable?
Heavy armor is 2. Basal infusion gives a 3rd. Shield gives a 4th.
That's right.
The spider would give 2 more. So it's
and then Dust Forge will have 3 rollable. Yeah. But then he's got an Orc Shamans with a Wizard Adept, Shamanism again for those buffs. 25 Feral Orcs. Oh. Standard Bearer with Green Tide.
They all get to attack.
Yeah, that one scares me just. Yeah, that one scares me just looking at it here. Then he's got a block of 24 Common Orcs, another block of Goblins. That gets
on the Common Orcs, so that is a ranged unit.
Yeah. That's also something you don't see very often, but so there's going to be crossbows. It's got Mad Gits coming out of the Cave Goblins, 2 15 strong Nasher herds, Goblin Raiders, there's Chaff, Nasher Wrecking Team, Scrap Wagon, a lot of tools there. He'll send a lot of that stuff right out to disrupt the movement of his opponent. Gargantua, we all know what that does. So hard to kill. Just so many hit points, so hard to get to. And the Great Green Idol, which if he's able to keep it close, will give some buffs to those Orc units that'll make them even scarier than they already are. So this is a very solid list. This is a very solid and very scary list. So
it's interesting I'm interested to see how it's going to work, because I think for an Orcs and Goblins list, it's pretty light shooting. There's no artillery here, which I feel
he doesn't have
see at least some artillery.
He did put the web launcher on the Gargantua, but that's more of a movement affecting thing. He does have all those Nashers and the Wrecking Team and the Scrap Wagon.
Yeah,
so
a lot of chaff, a lot of random movement,
and that those things will really mess up the opponent's attempt to move across the board, because you don't want to be charged by those things.
And there might be a Wrath of God dropping in his backline too.
Exactly. So I'm looking at the general on a war board, and
he's got to be a cowboy too.
He's got to be a cowboy too, which is he does have solid. He's got a 1-up armor and Death Cheaters, so he does have a 4-up fortitude, but that's a little risky. Not having a unit to protect the general. So yeah, he's got 2 cowboys. That'll be interesting. So
4
Yeah,
characters. Yeah.
solid list. A lot of magic. Yeah.
Next, we've got Anton's saying for
Uh,
his Undying Dynasties.
yeah, here they are. So I have played Anton many times. I've played this list before. The only thing that seems to change every time I play it is the number of skeletons.
I think
But I've seen
last
more,
time
I've seen
he was running
less.
3 catapults.
I believe so. And also I've seen him run much bigger skeleton units than
I
this.
think the Casket of Fatep is new. I don't remember that.
Yeah, it's similar to well, not similar exactly. It does kind of what the dwarf anvil does. Let me pull it up just to double check.
Sure
I don't think I've ever
Dwarf
seen him run that before, so I'm not super familiar with it. So we better check on that just to see what it
looks like
is.
it's a caster.
It's a caster, right?
Yeah.
And I think does it buff his other casting? Or no,
it debuffs enemy casters.
That's what it does. Yeah.
Enemy
So
casters
yeah,
get -1 to their casting rolls, and then I think he is running the combo that changes how flex cards work as well. So people's magic phases are going to be very different from what they're used to when they play against.
right. He's got the soul conduit. So basically every turn it's going to be the 5 dice and then extra veil tokens for the undead. So there's not going to be any variability to the magic phase, which is, so you can't wait for that good one, but then again, you also have to dread that bad one. So he's got the Death Bolt Hierarch on the arc, which buffs his magic phase, gives him a lot more protection.
The Sacred Hourglass also makes his casting easier.
And
so
then
for a big magic phase here.
So that one is the Hierophant, as you would expect. But yeah, 710 points. Wizard Master Cosmology, that's pretty scary. He's got the Pharaoh, he's got the Godslayer and the Death Maths of Tepet. So he'll be putting this in one of the skeleton units to make them, basically they stop being skeletons and they start being pretty close to elite infantry. And then the Death Mask, I'm sorry, I have to look a couple of these things up.
Enemy weapon skill down by 2. So
right.
It makes the skeletons harder to hit. And I think they also already have parry, so they're going to be...
Right. And the Godslayer gives him +1 attack value, divine attacks, magical attacks, both wounds 2 against Aegis. So very strong against enemy characters or demons. And I do believe we do have a demon player out there somewhere today. So yeah, that Godslayer is very scary. And then 2 Scarab Swarms, which I've seen used in very interesting ways. They can really hold something down. You put that into a big monster and it'll just hold it. So the Shabtis, again, that's classic Shabtis, yet another big monster infantry unit. It's got just a couple of 10 archers, which is very few really. Skeleton scouts, which are chaff. Then he's got 2 catapults, and then he's got that battle sphinx, which is big scary monster 101. So he will be moving. He doesn't have that much shooting. He'll be moving across the board, trying to get you into combat with these blocks.
With that skeleton Death Star. He's got skeleton because the other 2 skeleton units, the 20 spears and the cavalry, they are ambushers with the banner of the Entomb.
Oh, they're banner and tomb, so they'll be coming out of your back
really he's going to start off with the Shabtis, the Battle Sphinx, and the Death Star, and that's
right. Probably with the scarabs, probably with the scarabs in front of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. So nice job, Anton. Always look forward to playing you. Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow.
Next, we've got St. Evans, Empire of Schonstal. He's got Cosmo Master with the magical heirloom, so no protection on him, but Cosmo Master I think is one of my favorite masters that you can run, because I think all the spells in Cosmo are really good. I like all the tools that they have. And he's got the heirloom, so he doesn't have to give up the hereditary if he wants to take 4 of those Cosmo spells. So that's always a great magic phase. He's probably got to bunker that guy, but he's got enough units to make that very doable. He's got Prelate on a horse, who most likely looks like he's going to be a cowboy. He might go in that electoral cavalry, but
He'll probably go in the electoral
cavalry.
cavalry because he can give them buffs with his.
He's got 3 characters on horses.
That's true.
I don't know if he's going to put them all in the cavalry, because that would be pretty wild. The Inquisitor would be the most likely one to be a cowboy, I think. He's got the best save, and he's light troops, so he could just run around, maybe look for monsters and characters. Pretty much his job. The Prelate gives a lot of buffs to that electoral cavalry unit, so that's more of like a medium cavalry unit, but with those buffs from the Prelate, he could kind of turn them into a heavy cavalry unit almost, but with out of core. It's got a couple units of crossbowmen, so pretty solid amount of shooting there. He's got 1 block of heavy infantry with halberds as a support unit. So he's got the Great Tactician Marshal, the BSB, allows him to get more orders. Then he's got the Imperial Guard, which are more of a defensive unit, whereas the heavy infantry are more of the offensive unit. He's got 6 riders, which are the really crazy shooting unit. They're cavalry, but those repeater guns give them like 3 shots each, and they have pretty solid AP because they are guns. So that's a lot of shooting. 2 blocks of Imperial Rangers, which are pretty much chaff. He's got a cannon.
Actually, those Rangers are interesting. They're basically monster hunters. They get bonuses against gigantic. They're fearless against gigantic and beasts, I believe. They're very strong chaff. For 90 points,
they do help against some lists, but against other lists, they'll pretty much be chaff. I think they're mostly to affect the movement phase. So
yeah.
And he's got a cannon and a rocket. So and
then one more thing, also, just one more small thing.
It's also a cannon, basically. So he's got pretty much 3 war machines. He's got 2 blocks of crossbows. Got the riders. That's a lot of shooting.
It is,
but it's still pretty strong in combat. And then he's got the cowboy to really control like parts of the board. So, and the steam tank is also always a massive threat.
It'll be interesting.
Random mover, so it's hard to escape. If you're fleeing, it can just like blow you up. It's pretty rough.
It'll be interesting if he plays against one of the Orc and Goblin lists to watch them trying to keep the steam tank from shooting with Twisted Effigy. So, yeah.
Well, I think only one of the Orc and Goblin lists is running Witchcraft, right?
Oh, I think the other one was not running.
He's running Thaumaturgy.
Thaumaturgy, right?
So, okay. And we've got Stewards, Demon Legions, which is I like this list because it fits on a tiny part of the page. I think that's excellent. You don't need a lot of units. Also, there's not the demons. You don't have too many add-ons. It's pretty much just the units are the units, and I think that's great. It's got the Omen of Sevar, which is a Thaumaturgy Master, and those Brimstone Secretions. The Thaumaturgy Master is always fun. It's always a little bit of a risk when you throw out more dice, and the demons do get more dice than other armies because they get those 2 extra Veil tokens every round.
But so does the opponent. So
does the opponent, but
yeah, doesn't help you when you're
makes just more Veil tokens in general. But with the charged tendrils that he's got, you can actually hold more Veil tokens. So
you can hold 6
with a Master and an Adept. He's going to be throwing a lot of dice in the magic phase, And Witchcraft helps movement, which is great because he's running 2 big infantry blocks that hit really hard, especially against scoring units, because he's got Smothering Coil. So the Succubi will just shred anything they run into. But they're pretty big blocks, so I think that's cool. I think infantry blocks should be more common. I love seeing big blocks of infantry moving around the board. I think that's one of the big appeals to this game. He's got the 6 Brazen Beasts, which are like monstrous infantry that also hit really hard on the charge. He's got 6 Clawed Fiends, which are more monstrous infantry. So a lot of big bases here, which is really fun. 2 blocks of 8 Eidolons, so that's a lot of shooting. That really hurts against high armor targets. So anyone that's running the cowboys or monsters and such is gonna be pretty afraid of those. And then 2 blocks of 5 sirens, which are some of the best chaff in the game, I think. So he's got a lot of tools to play around the movement phase. He plays in all 3 phases really well, or all 4 phases with combat, shooting, magic, and movement.
So I was lucky to play Stuart the first 2 times he played these Deep Legions. And then I've been watching him. I haven't played him since, but I've been watching him, and he's getting better and better and better and better and better with them. He's now up to Stuart standard with his vermin. So this is going to be a big challenge for anybody.
This is a really strong list that he's been practicing. So
yep.
He'll do pretty well. So we've got our other UD player.
This is our other UD player. It's a little different than the one we saw before. This one has again Deathcloak Hierarch, as you expect, Sudden Soul Conduit. He's an Evo Master, which is an interesting choice. Gives him a lot of buffs.
Also got the Hourglass and the Soul Conduit.
Right. So it'll be the same as before. His Pharaoh also has the Godslayer. Has the Crown of the Wizard King, which means he'll have a random choice of a random selection of a magic path, which is interesting for him because it gives us things that he normally doesn't have. I'm a big fan of that. A great Aspen bow, so he does have a little shooting coming off his Pharaoh until he gets into combat. He's got a Harbinger. This is the BSB. Scroll of Desiccation, if I remember right, changes a piece of terrain. You want to look that one up, Andy?
Yeah, it changes basically changes a terrain feature to be dangerous terrain 1 for all units.
Right.
And it loses normal rules.
Right. So essentially it like turns a forest into like a little desert area.
Right. It's like similar to a ruin because it's DT1, but it doesn't have the cover that it gives. So there's no benefit to being inside. It's just DT.
Right. So, wow, 60 skeletons. Spear and Standard Bearer. Put that Pharaoh in there, and this is a monster. He gave it to the Relentless Company.
Put the Pharaoh
and the Harbinger. Yeah, they'll both go in there. Relentless Company means it's going to get right across the board right away.
Face, yeah.
Right in your face right away. That is a lot of wounds to chew through. And with spears, he'll be fighting your extra rank. He'll probably come in
7 wide.
Horde 7 wide, yeah.
Because he doesn't want to lose that rank bonus.
No, he doesn't want to lose the rank bonus. So he won't go 8 wide, but he'll come in 7 wide, those 2 characters in the front row, and then the 2 rows of skeletons behind, 3 rows of skeletons behind, because he'll have the spear. No, he won't be Horde, so 2 rows. He's got 26 archers, which can put out a fair amount of damage. They do only hit on 5s, but they always hit on 5s. Skeleton scouts, fast chaff, Shabties. These have a flaming standard, which is interesting compared to some of the other lists we've seen. Tomb Cataphracts. These come out of the ground. They're an ambushing unit. So that's kind of, these aren't the ambushing unit. These are like a heavy cavalry. That's why they have a stalker standard. They're like a heavy cavalry. Two Scarab Storms. He's got the Dread Sphinx, and he's also got a Colossus, which is a fun. I'm looking forward to seeing what model he's using for this. The Colossus is a lot of fun. It's like a giant on steroids, as if a giant wasn't already on steroids.
So the
So
Cataphracts can take Ambusher, but he did not take it.
He didn't take it, right? They can take him too, but he didn't take it. So they're just a big monstrous cavalry unit.
Yeah.
So again, he's got those 60 skeletons, and then he's got a lot of big bases.
Yeah.
So
I think it's
it'll
awesome,
be
by the way, that in this tournament we've got 2 UD players.
Yeah.
It's not something you fight against all the time, and then they're both running one of each kind of Sphinx. So we've got good Sphinx,
right, and a Colossus, which I love to see. I don't know if it's the most meta version in the. I mean, both of these lists, but
in general is not the most meta book, so it's
right
to see
take what you want,
options,
right?
Yeah.
Take what you want. So yeah, these are going to be fun to play against. Well, like I'm not sure 60 players, skeletons is going to be fun to play against,
but a lot of players also seem to have taken big base units with monstrous infantry or monstrous cavalry when they get the chance to. So that's pretty fun.
And some of us don't have a choice, but moving on.
Speaking of which, not having a choice, we've got your Ogre Cons. I've played against this list, I think, with no changes since the last time I played against it,
which was the day before yesterday.
But you do tend to change your list quite often, so
I do.
It wouldn't have surprised me if you had stuck in some last changes, but it looks like this is.
If you remember right, we got home after 6 o'clock, so I would have had to basically been using my pseudo TO powers for evil, which I'm not above doing.
I was out picking up food before you turned on the.
That's true.
During
the burrito, I could have done that, but I didn't do it.
Well, so having played against this list, I think I have a pretty good idea of like its strengths. The Shamanism Master is always really nasty because the Totemic Summon can just show up behind your lines or show up like to reinforce his guys. The Ritual Bloodletter giving him more Veil tokens and make him hit harder. The Heirloom, so he's got 5 spells. Talisman of the Void and Gut Roar, so this guy channels 3 times, and he's got a 4th channel because he's got the Crown of the Wizard King. Or does that one give channel?
No,
I don't think it does.
It's an
he has 3 channels from 1 character, which is.
And if he does damage, if he does do a wound in combat, he does
Bloodletter. He gets extra Veil tokens. So he's generating a lot of Veil tokens here. It's a pretty expensive shaman. And he's got a Mammoth Hunter, which is mostly for running around hunting monsters. The light armor with the Wrestler's Belt gives him 3 armor and like more strength. The paired weapons with supernatural dexterity means he hits really hard. The hunting spear. You did change the list. Before.
This is the old one. This is the old one.
This guy's got Scout instead of Vanguard.
Yeah, this is the old list.
Which I think Scout can be better in a lot of situations. So really, it's not a.
I guess I'll use it. It's not exactly what I was. I did make a few changes, but we'll go with what's here.
Yeah, so you got the Hunting Spear, which again helps just kill monsters because you can run with it and then toss it, and it just kills gigantic things. We've got a pretty solid number of gigantic things in this tournament. And he's got a BSB with the Essence of Mithros, so he's got a lot of armor. The Iron Fist, which doesn't really give him more armor in this situation.
It does parry though.
It does give him parry.
Yeah.
He's got the Ogre Crossbow, which is almost like a portable bolt thrower. And he's got the Crown of the Wizard King, so he's going to be casting as well. So he's got 6 spells. One of them is random. So pretty good variety there. Pretty solid magic fades with all those channels as well. He's got block of tribesmen. It's not, I wouldn't call it a tribesman star because it's not like, huge, but can put the characters in there to accept the Mammoth Hunter, of course, to make that a pretty solid threat. With the Rending Banner, makes them hit pretty hard. 30 Scraplings. The Foreman does a surprising amount of damage if he gets a chance to hit, but the Scraplings, they're mostly just to stand in objectives and try not to die. They're not the most threatening thing, but they have a little bit of hidden power there. Two bruiser darts, which always good for scoring or killing a chaff or making like supportive charges in a pinch. Mercenary veterans with the brace of pistols. That's 12 attacks with poison and accurate. Pretty classic combination. He's got the stalker standard on there, so he doesn't have to make any DTs and lose some very high value wounds on them. He's got two tigers, which are some of the best chaff in the game. I think they're very maneuverable, and they're surprisingly resilient. And then in this game, they also can use the leadership of the mammoth hunter. So he's got a thunder cannon and a scratapult, so pretty good amount of range. Eventually, his cannon will hit something. It's been maybe like 7 games in a row where the cannon hasn't hit a single target. So someone's gonna get hit by a bunch of cannon shots in one game, and it's all gonna even out at once.
I'm hoping for Will. We'll just see what happens.
Will is his first round opponent, so we haven't gotten to his list yet. But yeah, if you might need that luck against Will.
I do.
He's got the Scratapult, which is great for killing a bunch of these small, low res or like big low res units, like the skeletons, the orcs and goblins, the elves that we haven't seen yet, the elves that we did see. There's a lot of good targets for the Scratapult.
Empire.
Empire. I think this is a really high value Scratapult for this army. Same with the splatter that was in the first orc and goblin list. I think this is a great catapult tournament. And the Frost Mammoth, which has 2 ogre crossbows on top and makes it really hard to fight some of these ogres that normally you would hit first against because their ogres are pretty low agility, but the tribesmen and the mercvets are probably hitting first now if they're near that mammoth, so that's pretty nasty. Next, we've got my list.
Yeah, speaking of our game the day before yesterday, again, I've played this one quite a few times. Andy, at our last tournament, didn't have enough models ready to go, so he just sort of threw, and he was also in Canada up until like 2 days before. So he just I threw together an elf list for him, and he used that. He did pretty well with it. But this is his
like 12th out of 16 or something.
Well, still,
not that great.
This is Andy's wheelhouse. He's been working on this army for. We were looking at some of his models that I think they go back maybe 10 years when they were first painted.
About 12 years ago is when I first started buying and painting these. It was during 7th edition Warhammer Fantasy. Was the first.
So he's got an Exalted Herald, which can take the manifestation du jour against whoever he's playing. It has spells, so he'll be running the Wrath of God, and then some other options. It might fly. It might have more magic. It's got a lot of options. So it's a very disturbing, large thing. It's not protected maybe as well as it could be. So it is. It can be shot, and that's a lot of points. So he's careful with it, as he should be, but it's a great zoning unit because most of the time you don't want any part of it. So even if he's hiding behind a hill, he can still throw those comets. So it's a nasty opponent. That Chosen Lord, I've actually written to the Knife Age people about how cheaty this particular Lord is. So he's got that trophy rack, which makes it sort of a mini BSB for his own unit. Banner of Speed, so he's going to give whatever unit he's in at that extra few inches. Shield, Immortal Gauntlets, Veilgate Orb, Envy, and a Tropic Aura. You want to explain those to everybody, since you know what they are?
Yeah, well, so this list kind of got messed up by a new recruit when I submitted it. Some like weird versioning difference. So he's not supposed to have the Veilgate
same thing
orb.
Happened to me, actually.
Yeah, he's not supposed to have the Veilgate orb. He's supposed to have a spiked shield instead. So we don't have to worry about the Veilgate orb. The spiked shield is just make an armor save before it gives a hit back. So the Immortal Gauntlets kind of let him do divine, flaming, or magical attacks if I spend a Veil token. But importantly, it's an artifact because the Entropic Aura means he and any characters in base contact with his unit, enemy or friendly, don't get to use their magic weapons or armor. So he doesn't have any magic weapons or armor. Instead, he's got this Immortal Gauntlets to kind of like pretend he's got magic weapons. And then Envy gives Swift Stride and rerolls.
He's right. He's right here. His tail just went by the camera.
There's the dark pause that we mentioned.
Yeah.
So we've got
he's pretty harsh.
Gonna try to fight people naked, basically.
So then we have the sorcerer. This is his general, which is interesting. He doesn't make the lord the general because the lord tends to get into combat a lot, and also it doesn't really matter because everything in the Chaos book has high leadership, has high discipline.
Dark Gods.
I'm sorry.
Don't sue us, GW. Chaos list is
Dark Gods. Everything in the Dark Gods book has very high leadership, so the general almost doesn't matter, except as points. He has it on that the disc sky wheel. At least again, so he'll be. This is essentially a cowboy sorcerer, but it can fly. So it's fly and light troops. It's very hard to pin down. Wizard Adept with alchemy, which means he'll be throwing. Well, it depends what he chooses to throw around, but often you'll be getting hit with Quicksilver Lash if you've got armor, or he'll be doing Glory of Gold and the Iron on his units to make him tougher. He's got the 4+4+, and Hero's Heart and Magical Heirloom and Dragon Staff, which gives him a breath weapon. So he is he's no easy target. I have to say, I might have given him less combat stuff because kind of the point is keeping him out of combat. So he can go in combat, but he doesn't have to. And I don't know. I might have used those points elsewhere, but that's a matter of opinion.
He's
Andy, hold on.
Hold
on. And he always has an opinion. So that's his choice. It is your list. He has 18 warriors with Envy and the Zealots banner. You want to explain those two things? Envy does.
It's the Swift Stride and rerolling ones.
And the Zealots banner.
Fight an extra rank.
Extra rank.
The second rank gets to make an extra supporting attack. So since warriors have 2 base attacks on the profile, they all get to hit.
So his second rank gets 2 attacks as opposed to just 1. So he'll run this 6 wide, and so you'll end up with 24 attacks?
25 with the champion.
25 with the champion. That's a lot, and they're warriors of chaos. Then he has another.
They are warriors.
They're warriors of the Dark Gods. I'm sorry. Then he has another smaller warrior unit, which is probably more likely going to be used for grabbing objectives and stuff, but it's still 10 warriors. So it's no picnic. 15 attacks?
15 attacks, yeah.
Warhounds, probably the worst chaff unit in the game. They're not light troops. Chosen Knights, we all know how horrifying those are. He gives them the stalker standard, so some of the tricks that you might have, if you're running shamanism, for example, don't work against them. Feldrax, they'll have that wasteland torch, so he will turn something into a ruin. It's either a forest or a field, and it gives them they will have Strider ruins.
And then flaming attacks first turn of combat.
Yeah. 2 warrior chariots, very hard hitting. Chimera, big scary thing in other lists. Warriors of Dark Gods, sort of a chaff unit. And then 5 Barbarian Horsemen, also not very good as a chaff unit. But they all, they're still part of this book, so they have decent armor. He's got a light lance, so they hit pretty hard. The scariest thing about this list is Andy has spent Lord knows how long studying it. So he knows exactly what every unit does. He knows the right way to place to put it.
Giving
This
me
is
way
not an
too much
opponent you
credit
should.
here. I've only played like 3 games with this list.
Yeah, but you've theory hammered for years and years and years with this list. So we'll see what happens.
And finally, we've got Will Stanley's Highborn Elves. So this list is tried and true. Got placed second at the Gemini tournament, which ran concurrent with the NA Masters last month, and he
And it was almost
tied for
second.
first. He lost on a
Yeah.
tiebreaker, so it
Yeah.
really is a very good list that Will knows how to play perfectly. He's got the Book of Arcane Mastery on a Master of Kenrick Tower, and since it's a High Prince, he knows 5 spells that he can pretty much cast really easily with that Book of Arcane Mastery. He's got the Longbow Commander with the Queen's Companion with Moonlight Arrows, so he gets a bunch of shots. He gives his unit quick to fire. He's got Obsidian Rock, so it's harder to kill his unit with magic. And it's the BSB, so he's going to be pretty safe. Probably not give up those points because it's in that block of Queensguard who have spears and the Ether icons. So that unit's going to have magic resist 3, quick to fire, strength 4 shooting that always hits on 2s.
30-inch range. Don't forget that.
30-inch range. So that's a very, very strong shooting unit that's going to pretty much blow anything up from all the way across the board. And it's not even that easy to charge because they will probably hit you first with Elf Agility and Spears. Speaking of Spears, he's got a big block of Spearmen with the War Banner of Rima. So on the charge, that's really
Citizen
strong.
Spears. Citizens.
They're Spears. They have the War Banner of Rima. So when they charge, they hit even harder. So they're strong on defense because they are Spearmen, but then they're also strong on offense with the War Banner, and they're backed up by a Cosmology Adept, so it doesn't have access to some of the 5 and 6 spells for Cosmo are really strong in my opinion, but so are the 1, 2, 3, and 4. So he's not losing out too badly, and he's got the Binding Scroll to kind of make your magic phase even harder. All the Ether icons and the Obsidian Rock and the Binding Scroll on top of it. It's got a small unit of Lancers, which is pretty much just a medium cav that can't do the most in combat, but they are decent on the charge and they're pretty good for scoring objectives really quickly. That's a very fast scoring unit.
And they have 2 up armor. Or, I'm sorry, they have armor 5.
Sure, but they don't hit very hard, and they're mostly they're mostly fast scoring. And he's got 2 units of Reavers with bows, so that's some of the best half of the game. I think they're very mobile. They can always march and shoot. They can reform however they want and really get in your way when you're trying to move around the board.
Feign Flight.
It's got 24 Sword Masters with the War Banner of Rima, so they hit even harder on the charge than they normally would. So a lot of Sword Masters. There's a lot of attacks there that will hit first and will probably hit you because they hit most things on 2s. So that's a really nasty unit. He's got 5 Knights of Rima, which are the heavy cavalry. They've got the Ether icons, so they're hard to blow up with spells. Knights of Rima get a 2-up Aegis save against flaming, so some stuff that normally is good at taking out armor targets like alchemy spells or a lot of the infernal dwarf weaponry doesn't really work against them. So another fast scoring unit that hits really hard. They're great zoners. On the charge they get extra attacks, so they really beat you up. The Frost Phoenix, which because elves don't hit quickly enough, lowers the agility of enemy units in base contact with it, along with their offense and defense skills. So yeah, makes the things like the spears or the sword masters hit even harder. So it's a really strong support unit. And then he's got the aforementioned Queensguard. So that's a lot of shooting. and he's got 2 Seaguard Reapers, which is even more shooting. So he's got really well balanced list here. Plays in all the phases really well with the crazy movement, strong shooting, a lot of magic, and solid combat units. So this is, I would say Will's probably the favorite to win the tournament because he probably has the most practice put in on this list, and he's a really strong player. So I think you're gonna have a really tough first round.
Yeah, I intend to.
You intend to have a really tough first round?
Oh, I fully plan on having a very tough first round. Yeah, but at least I didn't, grudge match it, so I got that going. Yeah. Okay.
The list for the tournament this weekend, actually tomorrow. So.
Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you've got suggestions, as I'm sure you do, like Beer Beard, study your books better before you do a list review, just let us know, and see you guys tomorrow.
Yeah, see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.